The reservation didn't exist. I called the restaurant. Twice. Sorry, sir. We don't have anyone by that name in our system. Not for tonight, not for this week. The woman on the phone even double-checked. I could hear her tapping on the keyboard. Maybe she booked under a different name? I gave Myra's full name. My name. Her maiden name. Nothing. At 7:20 p.m., I'm still sitting in my car, parked across the street from the place. Lantern plus fig. Her favorite. Candles on every table. Napkins folded like origami. The kind of restaurant you don't show up to without a reservation. She told me she had a girls' night. Said she'd be back late. Don't wait up, she smiled, sliding in that line like a lyric from an old song. I'll make it up later. Except Mira didn't go in. She never even stepped out of the car. I saw her parked down the block. Black Mazda, tinted windows. She was sitting there, alone, engine off. At 7:32, a man got in. Red hoodie, backpack, confident like he knew the passenger seat already belonged to him. The car didn't move for 20 minutes. I don't know what they were doing. I don't know what they weren't doing. But I watched, the whole time, in silence, heart pounding like a damn drumline in my ears. Then finally they drove off. Not toward dinner. Not toward anything I recognized. Just gone. She never mentioned him. Never mentioned a change of plans. Never texted. And when she got home later, hours later, her hair was up differently than when she left. Her scarf was gone. She said she lost it. She kissed me on the cheek and yawned. Girls' night was wild. She laughed. We should go there together sometime. I stared at her for a full beat. You mean lantern plus fig? She nodded, didn't even blink. Yep. Such a vibe. There's nothing quite like hearing a lie told perfectly, with a smile, by someone who used to swear she hated liars. I didn't sleep that night. I started digging, and what I found next wasn't just about dinner. I didn't tell her I saw him. Not yet. I wanted to see what she'd do if I played dumb, if she'd trip over her own story. But she didn't. Mira was polished. Smooth. The kind of lie that's been rehearsed, maybe even tested on someone before me. The next morning, she asked if I wanted pancakes. Like nothing happened. Like she hadn't vanished into the night with a stranger in a hoodie who didn't belong anywhere near a woman who once cried during Pixar movies and clipped wildflowers for our kitchen jar. While she whisked eggs, I watched her movements. Her back turned to me, humming some French song she didn't even understand the words to. I stared at her wrists. No bracelet. She always wore the silver one I gave her for our 10th anniversary. Gone. I quietly grabbed her scarf from the laundry hamper. The green one she said she lost. It wasn't lost. It was crumpled under a damp towel, with a smear of lipstick on one end that wasn't hers. Mira only wears nude tones. This was maroon. So that night, after she fell asleep, I did something I hadn't done since college. I followed the red hoodie. I went back to Lantern plus Fig the following evening, just in case. Sat in my car. Waited. Same time. Same block. Nothing. Night 2, nothing. But night 3, she left the house in a rush around 6:50. Said she was going to a bookstore event. Waved a dog-eared paperback in the air to prove it. I didn't follow her directly. I waited 10 minutes. Then I tracked her phone. Still shared locations. She forgot I had that set up after we got lost in Colorado years ago. She wasn't at a bookstore. She was 3 miles east, near an industrial lot behind a closed-down bakery. What kind of event takes place in a half-lit parking zone with 0 other cars? I parked a block away and crept toward the corner on foot. My heart was hammering in my ears, hands shaking. I wasn't scared. I was something worse, curious. That's when I saw him again. Red hoodie, lean build, same dark jeans. He stepped out from the passenger side of a white SUV. She stepped out from her car. No hug, no kiss, just a slow walk toward each other, and then the trunk of the SUV popped open. He handed her something, a brown folder. She didn't look inside. She slid it into her tote bag like it was routine. They talked for a few minutes. Low voices. I couldn't hear from that distance. But her body language was stiff. Not romantic. Not friendly either. Something else. Something that didn't fit any category I recognized. And then, this is what I haven't stopped thinking about. Before they split, she looked around. Not casually. Paranoid. Like she knew she shouldn't be there. Her eyes scanned past my hiding spot. For a second, I thought she saw me. But she didn't react. Then she left. He left. Separate directions. No goodbye. No smile. I didn't go home right away. I walked to where they'd stood. My hands were sweating. My legs felt like wood. There was a torn piece of paper near the tire marks. Wind blown. I picked it up. Half of a receipt. The other side had handwriting in thick blue ink. Friday, 9 p.m. Use back entrance. Don't wear jewelry. I don't know what the hell that means, but I think Myra's involved in something I never imagined. And worst of all, I think I've already lost her. I told her I had a migraine, that I'd be in bed early, that I'd taken some NyQuil and probably wouldn't hear a thing. She kissed my forehead gently, said, "Rest, baby," and left the room like she didn't have a secret life unfolding behind my back. I waited 30 minutes before getting up. Watched her from the upstairs window as she pulled out of the driveway, her tote bag slung over her shoulder, probably carrying that same folder I saw Red Hoodie give her. Friday, 9 p.m. Use the back entrance. Don't wear jewelry. Those words had been playing on loop in my mind for days. That tiny scrap of paper had become my obsession. I Googled every phrase, looked up local addresses with back entrances, dug through old emails, bank records, Facebook messages from years ago. Nothing made sense. Until I looked closely at a flyer I found crumpled in the car's side pocket. Myra's side of the car. A warehouse art show. Underground collective. One night only. No location printed, just a QR code. I scanned it. GPS pinged to a converted factory in the industrial district. So that's where I went. The place didn't look like anything special. Just an old brick building with 2 busted street lamps and a mural of a 3-headed rabbit on one side. No signs. No doors in the front. Just a dark alley to the right. And that's where I saw her. Mira. In a long dark coat. Hair pulled back tight. She wasn't wearing the tote bag anymore. She was holding something smaller, wrapped in black fabric. And she wasn't alone. Red Hoodie was there again. But this time he was talking to someone else. An older man in a navy overcoat. Balding. Stern. They looked like they were arguing. I ducked behind a dumpster, barely breathing. Mira stood off to the side, arms crossed, watching the men. She looked anxious. Not scared exactly, but uncomfortable. The way she gets when she's forced to mingle with people she can't control. Then all 3 of them went through a steel door in the back of the warehouse. Closed behind them. No lock. I waited a minute, heart pounding, then moved. The door creaked open louder than I wanted. Inside, I could hear the echo of music, strange ambient synths that sounded like a heartbeat underwater. The hallway was dim, lit with flickering purple bulbs. I followed the noise. The place opened up into a massive warehouse floor, transformed into something like a gallery, kind of. But the art was wrong. Abstract installations made of shattered electronics and mannequin parts. Videos projected onto dirty sheets hanging from the ceiling. It wasn't an art show. It was something else. And then I saw her again. Mira. Standing near the back wall, talking to the man in the overcoat. Red Hoodie was gone. I was close enough now to hear bits of the conversation. "I brought it. You said this was the last time." The man replied, voice low, "That depends on you. And him." Her eyes flicked sideways. She didn't see me, but she was definitely watching someone behind me. And that's when I felt a hand on my shoulder. Cold. Firm. A voice in my ear. "You're not supposed to be here, Curtis." They knew my name. I turned around fast, but no one was there. Just the projector cycling through static. When I turned back to where Mira had stood, she was gone. Just like that. No trace. And that's when it hit me. This wasn't about cheating anymore. It never really was. This was something deeper. She was hiding more than just infidelity. She was hiding a world. And somehow I was already in it. I stood in that warehouse far longer than I should have. the cold cement floor beneath my shoes, that unsettling hum of broken projectors buzzing like dying insects, and a looped audio track whispering something unintelligible in reverse. It all melted into a surreal fog. There was no Mira, no red hoodie, no navy coat, just that haunting phrase from behind my shoulder. "You're not supposed to be here, Curtis." It had a weight to it, like whoever said it knew more about me than I did. And I swear, the moment I turned around again, the entire room had changed. The crowd was gone. The purple lights had shifted to a dim, rust-colored glow. The bizarre installations were now draped with sheets like they were hiding something. Or someone. I backed toward the exit, breathing like I'd just run a mile. My palms were sweaty, phone still in my pocket, untouched. I hadn't thought to film anything. I didn't want to. Something deep in my gut told me this wasn't something you recorded. Not if you wanted to make it home. I finally slipped out through the back door and didn't look back until I was inside my car. Doors locked. Engine on. At home, the lights were off. Myra's car was already in the driveway. That didn't make sense. I left before her. I ran inside, calling her name. Casually, like I wasn't terrified. No response. I walked through each room. Kitchen, bedroom, guest room, bathroom. Then I saw it. On the hallway floor, half tucked under the rug, was a piece of the same black fabric she'd been carrying. It looked torn, jagged along the edge. I picked it up and turned it over. Sewn into the corner was a patch, a symbol I didn't recognize. 2 overlapping circles and a line through the middle, almost like a keyhole or an eclipse. That's when I heard her voice from upstairs. "Curtis?" she called, light and sleepy. "You're home." I froze. Her tone, it was too casual. Like nothing had happened. I climbed the stairs slowly. She was in bed, under the covers, wearing one of my old t-shirts, watching reruns on her laptop like this was just another Friday night. I stared at her. "Where did you go after the bookstore event?" I asked. She looked at me, blinked once, then tilted her head. "What do you mean? I came home around 9. I told you." "No," I said. "I saw you. I followed you. You went into that warehouse." Her expression didn't change. Not even a flinch. Just this slow smile that didn't reach her eyes. "I think you're just tired," she said. "You haven't been sleeping well. Maybe you're dreaming again." Dreaming. It hit me like a slap. A week ago, I had a nightmare that she died. She held me afterward, whispered that my mind plays tricks when I'm stressed, that I should stop reading conspiracy forums late at night. Now I wasn't so sure it was my mind playing tricks. I walked to the bathroom, locked the door, sat on the edge of the tub and pulled out my phone. No shared location. She'd turned it off. I went to the laptop in my office. Hers was closed on the couch, as always. I booted into the admin panel. She never bothered changing the passwords. I opened a hidden user folder, a trick I remembered from years ago when she thought she'd lost a manuscript she was ghostwriting. Inside the hidden folder were hundreds of files, encrypted, all dated over the last 6 months. Names like Gate3_access, Loop_2, and one marked only Truth. I clicked it. Password prompt. I tried everything. Our dog's name, our anniversary, her mother's birthday. Nothing worked. So I copied the file to a USB drive and hid it in my sock drawer. That night I didn't sleep. I listened to every creak in the house, every movement in the walls. I kept checking that symbol on the fabric, trying to find it online. Forums, Reddit, deep archives. I finally found it on an old thread dated 2014. Deleted now but cached. The symbol was linked to something called the Curtain, a group that claimed to preserve the boundary between visible and hidden truths. It sounded like a cult, or a game. Except now, I wasn't so sure there was a difference. And Mira, my wife of 12 years, she was either caught up in something terrifying, or she was part of it. I barely moved the next morning. I lay in bed, fully awake, eyes fixed on the ceiling while Mira curled up beside me like nothing in our lives had unraveled. She mumbled something about picking up oat milk later and asked if I wanted anything from the market. Her fingers traced lazy circles on my arm like they always did when she felt guilty about something but didn't want to admit it. I didn't say a word. My mind was locked on that file. C_truth. The password had to be something she wouldn't expect me to guess. And ironically, that's exactly what helped me guess it. Around 2 p.m., when she left to run errands, I bolted from bed, grabbed the USB I'd hidden, and loaded it up on my personal laptop. Still the same password prompt. I stared at it for almost 15 minutes. Then I typed one word, colder than before. It was something she used to say in her sleep. A phrase I always thought was nonsense, until I started noticing a pattern. She'd say it every time we had a serious argument, as if it was a safe word or a warning. She hadn't said it in years, but suddenly it popped into my head like a whisper. I typed it in and hit enter. The file opened. It was a video, low resolution, grainy, almost static-filled. First just black. Then the screen faded into a dimly lit room. A hotel room, by the looks of it, cheap beige wallpaper, a ticking clock on the wall. Mira was sitting at the edge of the bed, her back to the camera. Her hair was down, covering half her face, and she looked hollow. Not scared, not crying, just empty. A voice came from behind the camera. Male. Soft. Calm but chilling. Tell us when it started. She didn't answer right away. She just nodded. I think it was after the third session, after they put me in the chair. What chair? The man asked. She turned slightly, her face now visible, and I felt something freeze inside me. Her eyes weren't hers. They looked dull, like the lights were on, but nobody was fully home. It's not really a chair, she said. More like a frame. You sit inside it, and it shows you things. What kind of things? Her voice cracked a little. Memories that don't belong to you. There was a silence so long I thought the video had frozen. Then she whispered, almost too quietly to hear. He doesn't know, Curtis. He still thinks I'm his. The camera shook slightly. The man behind it sighed. And are you? She didn't answer. Just looked down at her hands like they weren't hers either. The video cut to black. I sat there frozen, hands trembling. Every hair on my body stood on end. I wanted to believe it was fake. Some experiment. A film project. Something explainable. But I knew my wife's voice. I knew the way she fidgeted with her rings when she was scared. I knew that little vein near her temple that only popped when she was lying. And I knew, more than anything, that whatever happened in that room wasn't just psychological. It had changed her. I replayed the video, searching for any clue. The clock on the wall read 11:19. The wallpaper had a strange print. Geometric patterns, almost like overlapping spirals. I took screenshots, ran them through reverse image searches. Eventually, I found a match. A decommissioned hospital on the outskirts of town. Shut down 5 years ago due to structural risk and funding issues. But according to an obscure message board post buried on page 17 of a forgotten thread, the building had been recently repurposed for private research. No permits. No owners listed. I knew then where I had to go. But before I left, I checked one more thing. Myra's calendar, synced to our shared cloud for years. She rarely used it anymore, but occasionally things popped up. I opened it and scrolled forward. Next Friday, 11:19 a.m. No description, just a single word. Re-entry. I don't know what that means. I don't know where exactly she's going. But I have 6 days to find out. And if she went in once, maybe I can go in too. Maybe that's the only way I'll understand what she's become. I waited until Mira left again. This time she said she had a last-minute acupuncture session, even though she hates needles and I know for a fact her usual clinic closed down last year. She didn't even try to make it believable anymore, and maybe that was part of the strategy. A slow erosion of trust until I questioned whether I was the one making things up. Whether I was losing it. But I wasn't. Not anymore. Not since that video. I packed a flashlight, gloves, my old DSLR camera with night vision, and 3 different USB drives just in case. I also brought an old voice recorder from college, the kind I used to take lecture notes with. And yeah, I packed a switchblade. I'm not proud of that, but I wasn't walking into this place unprepared. Because I knew now. This wasn't about marriage or cheating or even Mira anymore. It was about something else, something bigger, darker, older. The drive to the hospital took just under an hour. GPS showed nothing at the address, just a vague outline of a structure with the label property unavailable. No street view, no reviews, no photos, but I found it. It was tucked behind a crumbling industrial park, down a pothole-riddled road with weeds tall enough to scrape the underside of my car. The building loomed in the distance like a forgotten memory. All concrete, rusted pipes, and rows of black windows that reflected nothing. There was no front entrance, at least not one you could use. It had been sealed with concrete slabs, reinforced with fencing wrapped in barbed wire. But around the west wing, near what used to be a loading dock, I found a panel peeled back just enough to squeeze through. The second I stepped inside, it felt like I had dropped 50 degrees. The air was thick, humid, almost metallic, the kind of damp that clings to your bones. Inside, the layout was worse than I imagined. Most of the floor had collapsed in on itself, and sections of the ceiling had water damage so bad they pulsed with mold. But it was quiet, not abandoned quiet, expectant, like the building was holding its breath. I started exploring. The west wing looked like it had been cleared out in a hurry. Burn marks on the walls, scattered clipboards on the floor, their pages stuck together with grime. One door stood out, painted matte black, with a strange circular symbol on it. The same one I saw on the fabric in our house. The Eclipse keyhole. I turned the knob slowly. It wasn't locked. Behind it was a room far too modern for the rest of the building. Clean, recently scrubbed. White tile unbroken. No graffiti. No dust. There were padded chairs along the wall and a series of lockers, all numbered. A security camera in the corner blinked, still active. That's when I noticed the hum. Faint, like a generator, coming from behind a second door labeled intake. This door required a code. No keypad, just a circular panel with 5 touch points and no instructions. I was about to back out when I heard a voice. Not from inside the door. From above me. Curtis. I froze. I hadn't said my name aloud since entering the building. It wasn't Myra's voice. I turned on my recorder. Curtis, it said again. It's earlier than expected. You shouldn't be here yet. I looked up, heart in my throat. Nothing but ceiling tiles and broken fixtures. I backed toward the entrance to the room, trying not to trip over anything. Then the lights flickered. Once, twice, and the wall behind me changed. I swear to God, it shifted. Like liquid. One moment there was just that blank white tile, and the next there was a window. But it wasn't to outside. It was to another room. A viewing chamber. And inside it, strapped to a chair. Not just a chair, the chair Mira mentioned in the video was me. Eyes closed. Breathing shallow. Skin pale. I was hooked up to something. Wires. A mask over my mouth. I don't know how long I stood there before the window faded back into a blank wall. I ran. I don't remember how I got out. Only that I didn't stop driving until I hit the edge of town. And even then, I had to pull over and throw up on the side of the road. When I got home, Mira was already in bed, her back to me, breathing slow and even. She hadn't even noticed I'd left. Or maybe she had, because on my nightstand, sitting neatly beside my glasses, was a new note, folded perfectly, triangle-shaped, just like the dishwasher one. Inside it, one sentence. Next time, don't open the wrong door. I didn't sleep after I found the note. How could I? I sat in the armchair across from our bed, eyes fixed on Mira as she slept, the folded triangle still clenched in my hand like some cursed origami. She looked so peaceful. Not a hint of tension in her brow, not a flinch, not a single twitch, like her body had been trained to fake rest. It occurred to me, terrifyingly, that maybe she wasn't asleep at all. Maybe she was just waiting, listening. I watched the clock tick until 3:19 a.m., then quietly slipped downstairs. I sat on the kitchen floor with my laptop, headphones in, and pulled up the hospital video again. Not to watch Mira this time, but to study the background. The wallpaper behind her. The exact arrangement of shadows. The way the clock's second hand stuttered every few ticks. Then I played the part where she whispered my name. He still thinks I'm his. I paused it there. I opened the audio in an editing program, reversed it, boosted the gain, slowed it by 30%. There it was, beneath her voice. Not just background noise, but a whisper layered in the static. Another voice, deeper, saying version 5 just milliseconds before Myra's line. That phrase stuck with me like a splinter under skin. Version 5. What did that mean? Version of what? At 4:03 a.m., I opened a browser and accessed the backup storage from the hidden laptop folder. The one she didn't think I knew existed. It was encrypted differently, using some obscure format that only worked through a legacy system. Took me hours. But when I cracked it, what I found changed everything. There were folders labeled by date, but not calendar dates. They read like codes: 05 Delta Renew, 06 Void Trial, and the most recent, 07 Mirror K. Inside that folder was a single image file. I opened it, expecting something grainy or distorted. It was a picture of me, but not the one from the hospital. Not the one from the mirror. This was me standing at a podium, wearing a dark suit I don't own, smiling at a crowd I don't recognize. Behind me on a massive screen was the eclipse symbol, projected like a corporate logo. And then I looked closer. In the first row of the audience was Mira, and she was clapping. My heart stopped. I zoomed in on the background. The banners on the walls read, Curtis V. 5 Initiation Complete. I stumbled back from the screen, legs shaking. The file timestamp? Dated 4 months ago. I didn't remember giving any speech. I didn't remember standing behind that podium. But the scar on my left temple in the photo was real. I touched it. Faint but there. I had always thought it was from when I slipped on ice years ago. But now I wasn't sure of anything. That's when the lights in the hallway flickered. I thought it was just power issues. I told myself that, even as the air turned cold and dense like static was building in the walls. I walked to the bathroom, splashed cold water on my face, tried to shake it off. But then I saw it, the mirror. It wasn't showing me. It was showing a version of me with a different expression. His face was harder. His eyes were sharp, focused, like he knew something I didn't. He didn't mimic my movements. He just stared. And then, with no sound, he mouthed 4 words. You're not the first. I screamed and threw the bottle of soap at the mirror. Cracked. Shards bounced off the sink. The reflection reset. Just me. Just Curtis. Breathing heavy, tears welling in my eyes. Every logical explanation I'd clung to disintegrating like sand in a drain. When I turned around, Mira was standing in the doorway. She was calm. No surprise on her face. Just a tired smile. Like she'd been waiting for this moment all along. You saw it, didn't you? She asked. I couldn't speak. She stepped forward, touched the side of my face. Her fingers were cold. I hoped you wouldn't get this far, she whispered. I really did. You're not ready. What am I? I managed to choke out. What did you do to me? She leaned closer, her lips nearly at my ear, and said, Nothing you didn't agree to. Then she turned and walked back down the hall. I didn't follow her. I stood there in front of that cracked mirror, staring at my face like it was the first time I'd ever seen it. That night I didn't sleep. I didn't blink. I sat at the edge of the bed and listened to Mira breathe. And every few minutes, she would stop. Just long enough to make me wonder if she was breathing at all. Morning came slowly, but it did come. Warm golden light slid across the bedroom floor, climbing the edge of the blanket where my knees still rested. My eyes were dry from staying open too long. Mira was already up. The smell of toast and coffee drifted from downstairs like nothing had happened. And for a long time I just sat there, wondering what would happen if I simply pretended. If I walked down the stairs, kissed her on the cheek, asked how she slept, and acted like the night before didn't break something fundamental inside me. But I couldn't. Not after what I'd seen. Not after the mirror. Not after her whisper. Nothing you didn't agree to. So I got up, walked down the stairs like I was descending into something final, and found her standing at the kitchen counter, her back to me, humming softly. She was wearing my old flannel shirt, the one she always steals when it's cold. Her hair was still messy from sleep. She looked a human, familiar, fragile. She turned when she saw me, smiled. "Hey, coffee's fresh." I stared at her for a moment. Then I asked, "How much of this is real?" She didn't blink. She just nodded and gestured to the table. "Sit." I did, slowly. My hands trembled as I reached for the mug. "There's a reason you don't remember the speech," she said. "A reason you didn't know what was behind that door. The truth is, Curtis, you came to them. Voluntarily. You signed the agreement. They offered clarity. You asked to forget until you were ready." I didn't speak. I just watched her. Watched the way her fingers curled around her own cup, the way her eyes kept scanning my face. "I was assigned to guide you," she continued. "But along the way, I fell for you. The real you, not just version 5. I stayed after my assignment ended. I wasn't supposed to, but I couldn't leave." A long silence passed between us. Finally, I asked the only question that mattered. "Am I still me?" She smiled, and this time it was warm. "Real. You're more you than ever. You've finally integrated all 5 versions. That's why you saw the mirror. That's why the hospital showed you the chair. You're not fractured anymore." I let that sit for a moment, let it breathe. It sounded insane, but strangely, it made sense. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like a shadow inside my own skin. I felt here, solid, present. "I don't understand everything," I admitted. "You're not supposed to," she said. "But you will, in time." Outside, birds were chirping. The world was still turning. I took a long sip of coffee, staring at the sunlight pouring across the table, and for the first time in what felt like forever, I felt peace. Not because everything made sense, but because, somehow, everything didn't have to. Mira reached out and took my hand. "Welcome back, Curtis." I smiled. "It's good to be home." And this time I meant it,